For months now, the Air Force has been openly discussing plans to retire its most potent air superiority fighter, the F-22 Raptor, in favor of its next fighter in development. And while the exact timeline remains somewhat murky, the fact of the matter remains, the reign of the Raptor is coming to an end. When the Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor first rolled onto the flight line in 1997, it was an aircraft so unlike anything in service that it would soon be embraced as the basis from which a new generation of fighters would emerge, what most of us know as the fifth generation. Now, a full quarter-century later, only 3 more tactical jets have found their way into service with sufficiently advanced capabilities to earn that coveted 5th-gen designation. And despite these jets being newer than, and often based in some part on, the F-22, the venerable Raptor is still widely considered to be the most potent air-to-air fighter on the planet. Independent analysis of the F-22's stealth and combat capabilities, especially as compared to Chinese and Russian fighters that are widely considered to be less stealthy, remains favorable. And with far older platforms like the F-15, F-16 and F-A-18 not only still in service, but still receiving upgrades, many have come to ask. The F-22 was born out of the Air Force's Advanced Tactical Fighter Program, an effort that really began all the way back in 1981, when the Air Force first developed and established its list of requirements for a next-generation air superiority fighter meant to replace the already legendary F-15 Eagle. In 1981, the Cold War was still very much alive and well, and while the F-15 was designed as an answer to what America thought the MiG-25 was capable of, the Air Force believed that it would only be a matter of time before the Soviets fielded their own next-generation fighter meant to counter the F-15. So, in order to maintain America's competitive edge, there was no time to rest on the F-15's laurels. By 1985, the Air Force was sending out requests for proposals, and by as early as 1991, the YF-22 was not only already flying, it had won the competition to move into production. 6 years later, in 1997, the first production F-22 took flight, and 8 years after that, it was in service. But the same year Lockheed Martin won the contract to build the F-22, the Soviet Union collapsed. America had won the Cold War. By the time the F-22 went into service, the U.S. was no longer trying to deter a mighty nation-level opponent. Instead, it was waging war in multiple theaters against terrorist groups with no appreciable air defenses or fighters for the F-22 to contend with, and so, in 2009, America's standing order for 750 Raptors was slashed to just 186, with only 150 or so combat-coded jets. The F-22, which was expected to replace F-15s across the fleet, suddenly became an endangered species. With the multi-role F-35 following closely behind, much of the F-22's production line was cannibalized in favor of the new jet. This decision meant any effort to restart F-22 production in the future would be immensely, maybe even prohibitively, expensive. It also meant that the world would never have more than 186 Raptors. The figure could only go down from there. This decision led to a skyrocketing per-unit price for America's Raptors and created immediate concerns about the availability of airframes in a large-scale fight. It also drove up the cost of parts. With the aircraft's production lines halted, some components simply can't be replaced, while others that would have been less expensive in large volume for a 750 Raptor fleet, are much pricier in small batches for 150 combat jets. After all, the Air Force had intended to retire all of its F-15s in favor of F-22s, but today has to pay to maintain, update, and grow its F-15 fleets while also supporting the relatively few, though pricey, Raptors in its nest.